Welcome to this explainer on the Tu Quoque Fallacy, or as it's better known, the U2 argument. We're diving right in today to create a focused, clear space to untangle a super specific and, let's be honest, incredibly frustrating communication breakdown.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? We've all been in that moment where you're trying to make a totally valid point. Maybe you're giving some helpful advice or trying to resolve a conflict, and boom, the conversation completely flips. Instead of actually engaging with what you're saying, the other person just points a finger right back at you, highlighting all your personal flaws. Next thing you know, you're feeling unfairly judged, completely silenced, and totally derailed from the actual topic. Why on earth do they shut you down by pointing out your own flaws? Well, when an argument gets derailed like this, it feels deeply personal. But here's the secret. It's really not about you at all. It's a defense mechanism. They're basically grabbing the spotlight, shifting it away from the issue you brought up, and shining it incredibly harshly onto your past mistakes or your habits. By making you the problem, they effectively shut down the original conversation. Understanding this dynamic, that's your absolute first vital step in not taking that deflection personally and instead recognizing it for the structural, conversational roadblock that it actually is.
So it turns out this highly annoying tactic actually has a formal, historical name, the Tu Quoque Fallacy. Tu quoque is literally Latin for you also. You might have also heard it called the U2 fallacy or the appeal to hypocrisy. Honestly, having a formal name for this is just so validating, isn't it? It proves that this isn't some unique personal flaw in your relationships. Nope, this is a widely recognized, documented, and completely illogical tactic that humans have literally been using against each other for centuries. The whole core mechanism of Tu Quoque is trying to entirely discredit your argument purely by accusing you of hypocrisy. The person using this fallacy is operating on the completely faulty assumption that if you don't perfectly follow your own advice, well then your advice itself must be fundamentally wrong. To really paint a picture here, let's look at the classic smoking doctor example. Okay, imagine you're sitting in a medical clinic, a doctor is looking over your charts, stethoscope around their neck, and they gravely advise you that for your health, you absolutely need to quit smoking. But in this kind of absurd scenario, the doctor is casually puffing on a cigarette right in front of you while giving you this advice. So, is the doctor a hypocrite? Absolutely. Their actions are totally contradicting their own guidance. But, and this is the fulcrum of the entire concept right here, does the doctor's personal hypocrisy suddenly mean that smoking is actually good for you? No way, of course not. The medical advice that smoking is bad for your lungs just floats there in the air, glowing and 100% true, completely regardless of the doctor's bad habit.
And that brings us to the absolutely crucial takeaway here. The validity of a fact doesn't depend on the perfection of the person saying it. We absolutely have to separate the action of the speaker from the actual truth of their statement. If we don't do this, we end up throwing out incredibly valuable information just because the messenger is a little flawed. In the realm of logic, truth stands completely independently. A fact doesn't require a flawless, morally pure vessel to deliver it in order for it to remain a fact. Once we really internalize this, the Tu Quoque fallacy totally loses its power over us. We start to realize that our own imperfections don't instantly strip us of our right to speak the truth.
Now, this fallacy doesn't just happen in theoretical doctor's offices. It shows up in our everyday lives, like literally in our living rooms and kitchens. Picture a parent who happens to have a very cluttered, messy home office. They ask their teenager to clean their absolutely disastrous bedroom. The teenager immediately deflects, right? But your office is a mess. Boom! The teenager is using the Tu Quoque fallacy. They are completely avoiding the totally valid request to clean their own room by pointing right back at the parent's flaw. It's an incredibly common defense mechanism, perfectly designed to neutralize authority and evade responsibility.
And it doesn't just happen with authority figures either. It happens all the time between peers. Think about a time you tried to look out for a friend. Let's say you advise a friend to stop staying up so late because you can clearly see it's running their focus and really hurting their daily life. But instead of saying, hey, thanks for caring, they snap back, why should I listen to you? You were up until 2 a.m. last night. See what happened there? They're completely dismissing your genuinely good, scientifically sound advice about the importance of sleep simply because you, a normal human being, happened to be up late the night before. Your lack of perfect sleep hygiene is literally being weaponized to cancel out your valid, caring advice.
So in all these examples, the doctor, the teenager, the friend, notice the underlying mechanics of what is actually happening here. The other person is actively avoiding the actual truth of your advice by unfairly attacking your behavior. They are deflecting. By pointing out your flaws, they force you to defend yourself. Suddenly, you aren't talking about their lack of focus or their messy room anymore, are you? Nope, you are busy explaining exactly why you were up at 2 a.m. or justifying why your home office is cluttered. They've successfully hijacked the conversation, put you on the defensive, and allowed themselves to completely escape the spotlight and ignore the truth of what you initially said. Okay, so how do we dismantle this trap? How do we effectively transition from being stuck on the defensive back to leading a productive conversation? Well, to empower you, here is a super simple, highly effective 3-step toolkit to gracefully respond. Step 1. Own your imperfection, and do this without any shame whatsoever. If they say you were up late, just say, you know what, you're right, I wasn't perfect last night. By agreeing with the factual part of their attack, you instantly disarm them. You literally take their weapon away. Step 2, separate the action from the truth. You explicitly state the logic we've been talking about. You say, but my mistake doesn't change the fact that sleep is important for focus. Step 3, bring it back to the core issue. You confidently redirect the conversation right back to where it belongs. Let's focus on what's best for your health right now, not my schedule. This precise framework stops the deflection dead in its tracks.
I really want you to let this overarching lesson sink in. You are a work in progress, and that is perfectly okay. Your flaws do not invalidate your truths. You absolutely do not have to be perfect to be helpful. You don't have to be flawless to be insightful. You are fully allowed to be an imperfect human being who makes mistakes and still share incredibly valuable wisdom with the people around you. Why? Because truth stands entirely on its own. So next time someone tries to silence you by pointing out a flaw, just remember that you don't need to defend your entire character just to make a totally valid point.
To wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a completely different kind of conversational trap to chew on. What happens when someone stops pointing out your personal everyday flaws and instead escalates things to the absolute extreme? Like, what do you do when they compare your totally normal everyday ideas to the darkest, most evil figures in history? How do you hold your ground when someone tries to shut down your argument by casually dropping, well, Hitler thought that too? It's a fascinating and highly manipulative tactic. I want you to consider this provocative scenario. Get your gears turning, because that is exactly what we're going to be untangling in our next explainer on defending your thoughts against the reductio ad Hitlerum fallacy. Until then, keep your new 3-step toolkit handy, and whatever you do, don't let anyone silence your truth.